everybody, welcome back to Electronics Jensen, and today I'm doing my 1 year review of the Nintendo Switch 2. So let's have a look at the Nintendo Switch 2 hardware. So, of course, for those of you who haven't seen this before, one of the big differences between the Nintendo Switch 1 and the Nintendo Switch 2 is the fact that now the Joy-Cons connect magnetically. So you just simply slide them off and then connect them with magnets. Other new differences include that the top now has a USB-C port at the top, in addition to the one you get on the bottom. And it's got an upgraded sound system. It's got new port. It's got a different kickstand design. So it just pops out and then you can just pop it on the table and play in tabletop mode. Of course, we've got colour on the actual console now, which is great. That's the console. If we look at the Joy-Cons, of course, these are going to be different because of course, with the new Joy-Con, we got the C button for game chat. The buttons are also bigger than the Switch 1. The joysticks are bigger as well, which makes this a lot more comfortable for when you're using sticks, because if you remember on the Switch 1 they were very small, but probably the best part is that the SL and SR button is big, and that's one of the joys. It's big. These are so better when you have to do it, when you're splitting your Joy-Con with your friend or who else, and then you can play with the Joy-Con. We'll also look at the Nintendo Switch 2 dock set. And to say, this is a pretty beefy dock, but it's, it doesn't. The quality of this might not feel as nice as the hardware of the feel of the Nintendo Switch 2 console. But this is just to connect your TV and to your charge. So we open up the back. And there we have our AC adapter, HDMI output, and the LAN, which is essentially for an internet port to go on. Then inside, you can pick it up. We've got air vents for cooling, where the connector goes. And then, of course, inside here, interestingly, the Nintendo Switch 2 dock actually has its own built-in fan for the 4K chip. And I have to say, being able to play old Switch games, or maybe even oldest games, if you're using the Nintendo Switch Online, get into a bit, in 4K is incredible. You could, of course, set this to do whatever. So, overall, that's the hardware. The games without accessories you might want some accessories to go with your console. So what accessories have I bought, and also what accessories am I using, and what maybe could I not recommend? Well, I think we'll start with what comes in the box. So obviously, when you get the box, you get the dock. You also get HDMI, power lead, and then you got the 2 Joy-Cons. And you got your straps. So all you do with these is connect straps, and then you can play motion control games if you want to. You also get your grip, which you just connect your Joy-Cons onto, like so. I don't use this grip, but you're gonna get it with your box. You get it with the box anyway. There is a charging grip like this, which is just, it has a top USB-C port, and on the back there's the back buttons. But I don't use this grip. I wouldn't buy it, so that's that. What accessories have I got since? So the first one, unsurprisingly, would be the Pro Controller. And this controller has got to be one of the most comfortable controllers I've ever used in my life. The texture of it is amazing. It feels, this is the same price as Mario Kart, actually, so I'd expect it to be a good quality controller for its price. So we've got the analog sticks, we got plus and minus, the home, the capture buttons, the D-pad, the C button, and then your A, B, X, and Y. On the top, we've got the L and R and S, ZL and ZR buttons, plus the pairing, and that's where the top USB, that's where your charger is. On the bottom, we've got the headphone jack. And yeah, without doubt, this is definitely, I would just say go right ahead and buy the Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller, because it's such a nice thing. And then I've got the mention back buttons, and then it's just a very nice, comfortable controller. And it probably is my favourite Nintendo, probably not just my favourite Nintendo, but favourite game controller of all time. So this is a must-have. This is an absolute must-have. But as well as the Pro controller, I did get, if you saw in the unboxing, I did also buy the GameCube controller. And you gotta admit, I do really like this GameCube controller. I've never played an original GameCube, so I've never used an original GameCube controller. So if anybody watching has a GameCube, can anyone say, and who has bought this, can anyone say if this is the exact same feel, or if this feels just like the original GameCube controller? Because we've got our D-pad, we've got our joysticks, the C stick, the B, A, X, and Y as the GameCube, and then you've got the Z button on the top. There's also the ZL button that's new, and then you got the two original L and R buttons. You also on the top, we've got the same as the Pro controller. So we've got the game chat, your pairing button, your USB-C. There's your capture button and the home button. And so, but this GameCube is incredible. So that's actually, let's take a look at the GameCube. Right, so we just press the start button, and that should hopefully switch it on. Yep. And then we'll have a look at the GameCube games so far. And one thing's really nice, if you use the GameCube controller, it actually puts out this symbol here, and it will show in the top left, it shows in the top left here if you've actually using the GameCube controller. So there's only 9 games so far. Ones I really like: F-Zero, Wind Waker, Soul Calibur. Not a big fan of that one. Like that's great. Yet to try that out. That's not a big fan of Mario Striker, I have to say. I'm not really into Pokemon. One accessory that I bought a long time ago was these Joy-Con covers. So they, essentially, you just slide your Joy-Con into there, and then that just allows you to have, the idea is that they're supposed to feel a bit more grippy, a bit more holding, or like, so there's a lump on the back, which is like the hold, and then if you put your Joy-Con on, it's supposed to give you more hold. And they are good. If you're going to use them like this, they're absolutely fine. But when they're attached to the Switch 2 itself, I've kind of fallen out of love with them for that. Because they seem, so if I attach them to the Switch 2, the problem is that when I'm playing with them, what I was finding is they keep slipping off like that. And then they just keep slipping off like that during gameplay, which has kind of become annoying. So for handheld mode now, I've just stopped using them. But I still use them if I'm going to use them in motion control games. And they did actually cause a bit of a problem, which is that when I seem to put them on, if you're not careful, these holes where the joysticks go, they seem to, there's like an illustration, they catch on here, and then that's actually causing the catch like this, and then the rubber piece here, the little rubber cap underneath the joystick, gets caught, and then it's actually there. There, it's actually caused that to fold in, and then it's easy to fix. You just move the stick around a bit and then it's sorted. But that's another problem I have, where they just seem to catch the joystick. I'll still use these for when the Joy-Cons are off, but other than that, they were only a £5, you know, they weren't that expensive anyway, but yeah, I'm not really impressed with them. I did also buy I did get the 2 Joy-Con wheels from Mario Kart. I really do like these. I have to admit, I really do like them. And do you know what? When I've been playing mainly Mario Kart World with someone else, we've actually been using these because they're just so much easier. I mean, you get the same satisfaction as the sticking into the Switch, because they're just so nice. They're just simply clip in there and then use your wheel. I mean, again, they're mixed opinions. There's mixed opinions on these, but they are definitely the highest quality wheels you're going to get, I have to say. You're not really getting anything more than this. So, but as well as the wheels for Mario Kart, a second thing that I just got not too long ago, and there is now a video on my channel discussing these. These are the Venom mouse pads. So one of the things that obviously is cool about the Switch 2 is that they give you the mouse mode, but I was having problems where it just using the Joy-Con like this very quickly, where they want you to use the wrist strap, was getting extremely uncomfortable. And so it was giving me pain in my wrist here and on this palm of my hand. So I decided to, because I don't understand the idea of getting another set of wrist straps and then just cutting them off. Okay, I just don't see what's the idea behind that. What I will say, though, is that I did want to buy mouse pads, but a lot of people were sliding them off. But then I came across, searched around, found these, and these are really good. So you just simply, and they're very nice and easy. They match the colour of the Joy-Con too, so you just slide them in there, and then you've got yourself a proper mouse. So I will say, with Dragon Drive and like other mouse games, when I've started to use this has made the experience a lot better. Obviously, I may start, eventually when I decide to get a game that really makes full use of mouse mode, this is going to be handy because it's not painful. I don't think I've ever had any pain since I've used these. So, mouse pads are definitely, if you're not someone who's into the mouse mode, that's absolutely fine. But these are definitely, I recommend the Venom mouse pads. These are definitely the best ones I've seen. Well, the only ones I have. So 100% recommend these. Now we're going to move on to an accessory that I rarely use. This is probably the accessory I use the least, but I did buy the official Nintendo Switch 2 camera. Yeah, it's a USB-C camera, and it connects to your Switch 2, and then it's mainly for game chat. This guy hasn't used game chat in his year of having the Switch 2 because, well, the only person I know's got one is my dad, and I live in their house. So my use of the camera has been mainly camera games, from my Mario Party or the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. But it did actually come in use on my endoscopy day. When I had to have an endoscopy, this did actually, I used the Face Gaming Switch 2 Welcome Tour to distract me from what was going to happen. So that was actually one good use of this camera. But, you know, some people might want it. It's more a collector's item, really, but it's very well made. It's got a nice sturdy metal stand. It's got a nice metal plate. Yeah, but, you know, it's nice, and there's your camera. So it's a little goofy little camera, but if you're into it, you can get it. But this is definitely the accessory I use the least. Now, I do take my Switch 2 away with me at times when I go away. So, obviously that meant I had to buy a carrying case. Now, I don't own the official Nintendo Switch 2 carrying case because it's just apparently a very cheap feeling thing. It's not that great. And it came with like a cheap plastic screen protector. The screen protector I put on my Switch is a glass one. But I do own not one but two carrying cases. So I own a third-party Nintendo Switch 2 case. This is actually the first one. And then I actually went out and bought the official all-in-one carrying case. This one, although it's like £65, this one I 100% recommend, because one of the beauties of this bad boy is that this will store everything in there. So you've got your dock, the console itself, the grip, the two Joy-Cons, your Pro Controller, and there's also space for the power plug. And then in here, that's where your cables and your Joy-Con straps go. There's also 6 spaces for games. So this is really one for when I'm going away for a few days and I'm taking the Switch. If I'm just going out for a day or something, when I'm not going to be taking the lot, then I take this one. This one it can fit the dock, but this is mainly just the Switch goes in this section, and then here probably just take the plug and a controller. So, well, I definitely would recommend, this is probably a medium-sized case. When I got this case, I just had the console itself. I didn't have any of these accessories that I like to take away with me. So that's probably why I ended up having to buy the carrying case later on, because I did realise I needed a bigger case. So, yeah, that's all the accessories that I use. But now, it's time for the real question of this. How does this console now look after a year's use? Alright, so this is what they look like after the year's use. And, you know, they've been to places, I think I've been using these standard, but now, how do they look? I'm afraid, you know, after a year, I am starting to see cosmetic damages and this, and, you know, things aren't looking as new anymore, and things are starting to wear down. And if you watch the 6-month review, one of my sort of issues that I have with this, unfortunately, one thing I found that's very easy to damage is the little flimsy kickstand on the back. I say it actually, the kickstand feels alright, but compared to the Nintendo Switch 1 OLED that had the massive kickstand, I've always, you know, I've not been very thrilled about the way this feels, even though it's metal. And of course, it's prone to scratching. I had 2 scratches either end of the Joy-Con, and unfortunately now I have got another that has now another one. So the base of the kickstand is, this part of the kickstand is very easy to scratch. It's almost like when it goes into the dock, on the dock, it catches, if you're not careful, it probably catches the inside, and then that causes the kickstand to become scratched. I don't know. That's how I think what's been happening. But the kickstand now is in the worst damage I've got on there. Next, I have to talk about the screen. Now, I don't really know if I can talk about the screen because I have put a screen protector over it, so the damage is just to the screen protector. But in the video I'm playing now, if you get a good look, I have multiple scratches and scuffs all over the screen protector. So that just shows you that you do need it, or your screen's going to become very easily damaged, which isn't ideal. So, yeah, I mean, if that gets too badly damaged, I have got a spare, so I can just put another one on. Speaking of screen protectors, there is actually something that I didn't know about, and that is that on the inside of this screen, so there's actually, I won't be able to show you, but I can see inside there's actually a plastic film. So the screen that comes on the Switch 2 is a glass screen, but there's actually a plastic film on over the top that's like an anti-shattering device. So that's why, and then Nintendo strictly said, if you do not remove the shatter screen, or you will invalidate the warranty on the Switch 2. But I think, and there had been reports that our plastic screen gets scuffed pretty easily. So putting a screen protector on is definitely a big yes and a big no-no to not having a screen protector on. But the worst wear and tear, the worst damage that I've actually seen on the Nintendo Switch 2, from my personal side, is the Joy-Cons themselves. These Joy-Cons look nothing like they did a year ago when I first took them out of the box. Right, they are scuffed as though, like the insides of the Switch 2, I have to say the inside of the Switch 2 here, I'm starting to see a load of black marks all around the inside. Where it's probably this side is rubbing off every time I attach and detach the Joy-Cons, and as a result, they are leaving black marks all around. They're leaving black marks all around the Joy-Con, on the coloured sections, and these scuffs are really like the deep scuffs. They can actually just be wiped away, as it turns out. But you know, that was something I actually noticed 6 months ago, where they became scratching so easily. Other wear and tear is, as well as the sides, the analog sticks have really sort of very showing use. They were like a matte silver, a very deep black before, and now they are very worn down. The left Joy-Con, I have to say, is even worse. The left Joy-Con has got loads of scuffs and marks on it, and it looks like there's even a little dent in the left Joy-Con. And the left Joy-Con, on my left Joy-Con, has also got two chips out the top. There's two little chips out the top here. I don't know what that's been caught. That might have been caught on something, but there's two little chips on the top of the left Joy-Con. The camera's not really picking them up, but yeah, there's two chips here. Two tiny little chips out the top of the Joy-Con. And if I'll show the insides, here you can see these parts have changed colour. These two bits here have changed colour. So this was supposed to look like this, and now you can see they're getting a like oily looking marks on the end, and look. So the bits on the edge, these little connector parts, I don't know if you want to call them, they're showing basically discolouring. And I don't know this because, well, I bought another pair of Joy-Cons, which I'm going to do a separate video unboxing to compare these ones. So that's been the wear and tear. That's all the wear and tear that I've had on the Nintendo Switch 2 after about a year. Maybe my 3-year review will really show the durability. These Joy-Cons have had it. The Joy-Cons seem to have had it the worst. They are really they don't look new at all now. So maybe after 3 years, it'll be definitely interesting to see how they look. But overall, they are functioning absolutely incredibly. These are still my main Joy-Cons. I'll still be mainly using these. But yeah, when I have a look at the new set, I'll be interested to see how worn down these actually are. Now I'm going to look at some of the more negatives and the pros as well that may have changed since then. So, I want to talk about the pricing and residual values, really, because... So, I said I bought this Donkey Kong. This is a used copy, right? I don't know, I only bought it this year, but... The shop I went into, where I got this from, the value had lost a third of its value. Okay, so just after a few months, this Donkey Kong game had lost basically a third of its value in just a few months. And to think that this is like a 67 pound game, and it's now worth £50, so it's lost 17 quid after about a few months. I don't know when this copy was brand new, but yeah, that's interesting. And also, these Joy-Cons I bought from the same shop, not the same time, this is a more recent purchase. But yeah, these are dropped in value. So a new set of Joy-Con is £75 as well here in Britain, and these had lost like 20 quid off. And I will say I have actually already unboxed these to have a look at them. I did see them in the shelves, and they look virtually brand new, and I can't see anything on them, but it's already lost like 20 quid of value. So the prices of these, maybe just the games and the accessories, are going down significantly. They did have some consoles themselves, and they were still holding a lot of value. They're still like £90 or something. The Switch 2 here starts off at £396 in the UK. But of course, there is now going to be a worldwide price increase that's been announced. So obviously that's going to have a bigger impact. But speaking of pricing, you know, Nintendo does look like they are now dropping the prices of games to correspond with the increase of the console price. So although the console's now going to be more expensive to buy itself, you know, at least now the games will probably getting a bit of a better deal in terms of value. So that's probably a bit, that's more on the positive side to look at. So that's something new that's developed about pricing and looking at value. I think this is just something I want to make absolutely clear. What I've been seeing in terms of the used market on accessories and games. Right, it's now time for pros and cons. So I'll start off with the cons after 1 year's use. First big con is the battery life. It's nowhere near as good as Switch 1 OLED. I'm coming off the OLED, which was getting like 6 hours on a battery. The Switch 2, I'm getting between 2.5 hours to maybe 3 hours maximum, which is not ideal. Really, I'd like a better battery life. So that's not particularly good. Second con, I wish it was an OLED. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not the same LCD that we had on the Switch 1 when that first came out. It's a better improvement. I just think that you're going to charge that amount, maybe an OLED would be more worth it. And that's it. I think, so another con I could say about the Switch 2, again, the pricing, the games, you're paying for games that just aren't worth the value. So they're not worth the value. You know, you might get cheaper digital-only games, or you can get some cheaper third-party on the cartridge, and they can be worth more value. But Nintendo's first-party games are just ridiculously expensive and just not worth these prices. And then the fact that charging paid DLC on top, I just think you're only making it more expensive and less valuable. So I think that's probably a contributing factor to the prices. I suppose another con I've now got is that is it really a con? I think because it's bigger, it maybe is a little less portable than the original Switch. But I bought the case, so and that carrying case fits in a normal rucksack anyway, so I don't need to worry about that. So that's the cons. I'll go back to the battery. I did actually buy a second charger. I bought a second adapter with another lead, so I have two chargers. So that's probably something to consider. If you're going to be traveling, I'll take a power bank or a second cable and plug That's just better, really. That's just a better alternative to do. Right, pros and pros. So pros actually out the cons still. The 4K resolution in TV mode is incredible. And even the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, seeing them with the enhanced 4K makes them look so much better. Another thing is they added a new update called handheld boost mode. So that basically tricks a Nintendo Switch 1 game, so not Switch 2, but a Switch 1 game, into thinking that when it's in handheld mode, it's actually it's in docked mode. That increases the resolution to 1080p. So that is, and I have started to use that, and I am noticing the difference so much better. 1080p, 30 frames per second, and then obviously when I'm in TV mode, that will go back to where I'm able to use the 4K 60 FPS resolutions like Mario Kart and Donkey Kong. And that's a big advantage, I suppose. Second pro is I really do like these accessory options. I mean, you know, being able to buy retro controllers for people who like retro games. That's great, because it's like, even though you're playing on a new system, you can still get that old nostalgic feeling. And I think another pro is the Pro Controller. Pro for the Pro Controller. Alright. I mean, whilst I do think things like the camera can be a little bit unnecessary to some people, I do use it, just not that often. And then having accessories like wheels and then the mouse pads, that's another thing. So, you know, where you're finding issues with the mouse, where I have found issues with the mouse, you know, all of a sudden it's rectifiable. And when you are able to rectify issues with the mouse mode really is a good improvement. It really is a nice new feature to have. I think I pretty much gave most of the pros in the 6-month review. Most of the same. So if you want to see the original pros and cons, there is in the review video I did 6 months ago. Okay, so that's my 1 year review of the Nintendo Switch 2. I hope you found this useful. If you are now looking at buying one, this is just what it's been for me over the last year or so. I hope you really do like the video. So please like, comment, subscribe, and also share the video if you found this helpful and you think other people could do with it as well. Please. Thank you very much for watching.